It's Saturday, September 27th, and we're looking at the short and long range outlook. We'll take a look at the temperatures over the coming weeks and a chance for some snow starting to get a little stronger across parts of the west. We'll also take a close look at Imelda and some of the latest guidance for this tropical system. Let's start with the surface map. We're also going to look at what's going on in the upper levels with this map as well. Now, keep in mind what's going on here with Imelda is still, in my mind, up in the air, but we want to look kind of at the bigger picture here too, across the entire continent, because, I understand not everyone is being impacted by this tropical system. It is quiet across a lot of the central states up towards the Great Lakes as we head through the weekend. Dry conditions, high pressure really setting up shop here. That's going to keep skies mostly clear with plenty of sunshine around. It's also going to be relatively dry across the northeast too. Unfortunately, we did get a little bit of rain, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot more on the way, at least in the coming days. Again, Imelda will need to be watched. What will become likely Imelda at the time of this recording. The storm isn't named, but that would likely change. Umberto looks like it's going to stay out to sea. That is certainly good news, but this storm is also going to start to create some surf, in addition to what will be Imelda impacting parts of the eastern seaboard, really a lot of the eastern seaboard. Across the west, things start to get unsettled here as we now are looking at Tuesday into Wednesday, still relatively quiet from the Great Lakes all the way down to Texas here and areas in between as another shot of cool Canadian high pressure builds into the Great Lakes. This is also going to be the steering flow for what's trying to keep Imelda out to sea. That is the best case scenario. Worst case is this thing moves a little bit closer and stalls. I just feel so strong now that we're starting to continue to see that idea that this thing stalls and doesn't move very far inland just because of some of the newest data, which we'll look at in just a moment. Now, as we head towards next week with any operational run, you've got to understand there can start to be room for error. It's like shooting an arrow down a 100-yard football field. The further out you go in time, if you're off just a little bit, which these models have errors, they just do. They can't interpolate everything in the atmosphere going on at the exact same time. If you move that by just a little bit, by the time that arrow gets 100 yards, it's way off. So the further out in time we go, the more the errors. But the overall trend, in my opinion, is for warmer temperatures, above average numbers as we head into October with this type of setup. Not going to zoom in on any particular storm, but look what's trying to show up around the 6th, 7th, and 8th across the west. A decent shot of some cold air trying to build in. It could be our first significant snow for this part of the country, but again, we're looking really far out, and I would just hold off on any hopes and dreams for snow at this point. But we're definitely starting to see it show up. Your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, once we look beyond this week toward the 2nd and the 6th of October, it still looks warm across the central U.S. However, there's going to be some cooler weather, I think, here in the east, right along the coast, mostly because high pressure is trying to feed in some cooler than normal temperatures right near the coast into the mid-Atlantic. Warm across the west as well. And, once you look beyond this, your week 3 to 4 outlook, the 11th through the 24th of October, still looking above average as we enter the month. And we'll just have to wait and see how this October snow pans out here into parts of the northern Rockies. A long way to go. I do a weekly winter weather outlook where we look at big picture things, teleconnection. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit subscribe. Another one's coming this week. Things are changing. We're going to talk about some of those big picture changes. If you're just looking for weather, let's get to it. We'll talk about what's going on today. Umberto still spinning out across the Atlantic, and here comes what will likely be Imelda, spinning very close now to the Bahamas. That track expected to continue off to the north and west and then stall right near the coast. This is the overnight run of the European. The early morning European run is just coming in, so there is some new data to look at even as we record this video, still bringing this system very close to the coast and not letting it come ashore. That's some of the newest guidance. This is a look at the wind fields. You get the idea of even if this thing doesn't come ashore, right, you're still going to see some pretty decent impacts right along the coast. And then will this hurricane or tropical storm, I think it's going to be a hurricane, start to feel the tug of Umberto and pull it back to the east? Some of the models say yes. The GFS also on board with the idea that this storm doesn't quite come to the coast. And you're seeing a new forecast this morning from the National Hurricane Center. Yesterday, it had it a little bit closer to the coast. Today, it has it developing into a tropical storm and eventually a hurricane by Tuesday afternoon just off the southeast coast. And then look how it meanders just to the north and then slowly begins a bit of a curve to the east and a sharp curve. Still, a lot of uncertainty here. And you're still in that longer range cone here right along the southeast coast. So we'll have to watch this. And either way, I think once you have a hurricane or even a tropical storm spinning offshore, you're going to bring in a lot of moisture, so heavy rain still a concern across this region. Let's take a look at the precipitation, not just here, but across the rest of the country. We're going to take it region by region, starting here across the east. Relatively dry from the Great Lakes all the way down through Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana. Quite a bit of sunshine here. You start to get into the clouds, though, once you get into East Tennessee and Kentucky, with some rain moving through this region, or at least parts of Virginia and West Virginia. A decent slug of rain also working north into southern PA, into parts of Maryland, Delaware, southern Pennsylvania, and then eventually into New Jersey and New York as we head into tonight. Southern New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and we keep the showers near the coast as we head into Sunday morning. We're starting to see signs of what will be Imelda. Now, the RRFS model, which is what we're looking at, once you get out further in time, it's just not as accurate. It tries to bring this thing right near the Georgia-South Carolina line. Let's wait and see. Again, most of the guidance still taking this thing out to sea. Still some time for that model there to get a little more refined. Here's a look at your temperatures on Saturday. Heading into Sunday, here's what you can expect. Some cooler weather trying to work into parts of the Northeast. Highs will be back into the 60s and 70s. We're hot, though, from Indianapolis back into central Illinois, even into Missouri. And then as we head into Monday, temperatures still cool into the Northeast, still hot across parts of the Midwest, even the upper Midwest, pretty warm too. A little bit cooler here into the Mid-Atlantic, down into parts of the Southeast, just with more clouds. And then look at numbers as we head into Tuesday, pretty much the same. Not a lot of changes with your temperatures across this part of the country. Let's head toward the central states where it's quiet. A few showers and storms across parts of West Texas into New Mexico. That's where the rain will be. Otherwise, relatively quiet all the way. I'm just letting this roll out through Sunday with the showers confined into the mountains here. Here's a look at your numbers. Heading through Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, we're still pretty hot, getting warmer again across parts of Oklahoma, close to 90, feeling like summer. Not quite October. Yeah, it's not October. I get it, but I want to show you something as we head into October. Temperatures, I think, are going to stay relatively warm once we even get into next week. I'm going to push this pretty far ahead in time. Look at that. Back up into the 80s expected by Wednesday and Thursday, pretty far to the north too, into parts of Minnesota. Even by next week, by Thursday and Friday, the first week of October looking very summer-like for the central and southern plains too, for that matter. Across the west, showers, thunderstorms, more heavy downpours possible across parts of the southwest. And another storm is starting to slam into parts of the Pacific Northwest. That's going to increase our shower coverage as we head into really Sunday evening into Monday across this region. Showers will continue. In fact, they'll start to expand further to the north across the Great Basin as we head into Sunday afternoon. And then the rain picks up across California, Northern California, Oregon, Washington as we head into Monday as this system moves ashore. And heavy rain possible too out ahead of this system into parts of eastern Oregon, parts of Idaho, Nevada. Downpours, some gusty winds. And then as we look at temperatures, a little bit cooler across the southwest just because you're seeing more clouds. So there is some relief with this type of setup. And then looking at temperatures pretty quickly, I'm going to let this animate through fairly rapidly. Heading into Monday, now into Tuesday, there's that heat building just to the east of the mountains. A little cooler now across the Pacific Northwest with the showers moving in and that next storm. So temperatures are falling off here with highs in the 60s and 70s versus the 80s and 90s. But look, let's go out really far. By the time we get maybe into the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, look at that, high temperatures. These are modeled out likely a little bit overdone, but there's you a taste of winter heading into the 7th and the 8th. Ugh. Let's wait and see if this pans out, but boy, that's cold. All right, see you next time.